As this case today, with the Supreme Court taking up the matter and veering into the realm of history making and precedent setting, can you explain to us in the simplest terms, what is the issue the Supreme Court will decide?
So Trump has made a very extreme claim, and the claim is basically that the president can violate all criminal laws with absolute immunity so long as he's acting within what's called the outer perimeter of his official duty. So it really is a very, very broad and it's seemingly incoherent notion of absolute immunity.
So
it's very, yes, I'm sorry.
So I was just going to jump into that. So broad and difficult, and it was rejected by lower courts, hence we're here on appeal and up to the top court. But part of the argument is that very limited circumstances in which that would be curtailed. Only a former president who was impeached and convicted by the Senate can be criminally prosecuted. And again, I would ask for your take on that, because that's part of the Trump team's argument today.
Right. So the argument is that if you are going to puncture this immunity, the only way you can do it is if the president had been removed from office through the constitutional procedure. And again, the argument, it actually doesn't make sense. And in fact, in the lower court, the judges observed that it was inconsistent with the very argument they're making, because on one level, they're making the argument that there's absolute immunity, period. That is, if the president engaged in this conduct as part of his official duty, no matter how tangential to the official duty, he's absolutely immune even after he leaves office from prosecution. But then they come along and they say that, well, no, he can be prosecuted, but the only way he can be prosecuted is if he was formally removed through the impeachment process. And again, that argument doesn't make sense. It actually doesn't make sense in terms of the Constitution. I mean, if you read the Constitution of the United States, that just transparently is a wrong argument. Now, the fact that it's a wrong argument doesn't mean that it's not working to Trump's favor, because one thing it has done is it obviously has delayed the beginning of the federal election interference trial as the Supreme Court works its, thinks through this whole question of immunity.
And even if they decide, the expectation is late June, perhaps, for any decision. Should they decide that he does not have this immunity, that might be too late to even get to that trial if it's allowed to go forward before the election in November. So there's all sorts of considerations of timing and stakes of all of this. I'm just wondering, we took up some of our time on this case talking about Harvey Weinstein, and I'm sorry for all of this, but to understand what we're going to hear from the other side, Professor Douglas, is it fair to say, can you sum it up, no one is above the law?
Yeah, I think that's very much what they're going to say. And again, are there some issues as to how far, let's put it this way, are there some genuine issues about immunity? That is, might it be the case that certain actions that a president might take, let's say ordering some kind of drone strike, which then after he leaves office, someone argues was a violation of the law of armed conflict, was a war crime. I mean, there's some genuine issues to be raised about the limits or extent of immunity, of presidential immunity, but they're really not germane to the issue in the trial or the indictment in D.C. So I think the argument on the part of the government is that these issues, we can hold them off, and whatever result the Supreme Court ends up framing, it should not interfere with the ability of the government to move forward with this trial in an expeditious fashion. Because again, it's possible that the Supreme Court would not issue its ruling until the end of June. It's also possible, we know, that they can offer an expeditious ruling. We saw that in the case when Trump was removed from the Colorado primary ballot. The court offered a ruling within 25 days. If we go back to Bush v. Gore, the court offered a decision 1 day after its oral argument. So the court can move quickly when it wants to. The question is whether it wants to in this particular case.
Which has many looking at the three Trump appointees on the court and the conservative majority on the court, and could there be questions involving timing there at play? These are questions that I hope to have another opportunity to put to you, Professor Douglas. We'll leave it on that for now and get set for arguments as they are about to begin. Thank you.